see if I can change this. Let's remove wrap. Right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. If you are now tuned in live, you already know what to do. Number one, put some flames in the chat. Number two, let us know where you're listening in from. I have with me, as usual, the king of branding himself. And today we're going to crack open the seal and reveal a few secrets on marketing that is guaranteed to allow you the ability to attract and convert your ideal clients like clockwork. So let's put those flames in the chat. Let's get our places in. And also, don't forget to like, share, and definitely subscribe. Okay, so Shan, when you're ready, let's come out. Let's talk. We got a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah,
What's up?
yeah, let's do it. Phenomenal, phenomenal morning. Let's go.
Definitely is. All
Let's
right.
go.
So, how's New York?
Beautiful, beautiful by all intents and purposes. Beautiful, beautiful in New York can mean a couple different things. Number one, you're alive. That's beautiful. That's
Very true.
beautiful. Number two, you're safe. That's beautiful too. Right. But the weather changes. The weather changes, but it's okay. It's all good, man. I know it's not St. Lucia or anything like that, but we're doing well. How about yourself?
Actually, it might surprise you, but it's actually not that sunny nowadays. It's actually a bit rainy. So remember, I said we really have two seasons. We have either the rainy season or the dry season. So right now,
That's actually
you
good for
know,
you.
say that again.
That's actually good for you.
Yeah, I mean,
You can go get some
I'm used
water.
to it. I'm used to it.
Okay.
You know what's so nice? This month actually, it's actually Creole month in my country. So for those of you who don't know what that is, like Creole month is a special month where we get to celebrate sort of our heritage, um, a lot of traditional stuff. So we're talking about clothing, we're talking about food, and our history goes back all the way to Africa.
Mm.
So a lot of the food, a lot of the clothing is really it really reflects um I guess the culture of all of our people, right? All the way back to Africa. So we have a lot of madras, we have a lot of traditional foods, and the beautiful thing is a lot of people do things in what you would consider the old way, like old way of doing stuff. I'm talking about, I want you to imagine cutting a log, okay? So two guys cutting a log. There's one guy on a ladder, the other guy's at the bottom, and they have this long saw. The saw is like 10 feet tall. A 10 feet tall saw.
Okay.
And
Okay.
one guy is pushing down and the other guy is pulling, and they're working together to cut a tree or to cut a log. Like that's how people did stuff way, way, way back in the day. And that's just one example
Wow.
of what we'll be experiencing this month.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting. So you're cutting the log long way?
No, like one person is
So
here.
you're slicing it vertically.
Like this. Yes, vertical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this, straight up and down.
Yeah. But it's like 10 feet. So one guy is at like 10 feet, the other one is on the ground, and they're literally pulling and helping each other to cut like this huge log. And I guess they
Now
use that to make
you're
like,
gonna have to make me understand that at a later time. How two people can cut a tree that's straight in
no,
half.
no, 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 it's not straight. It's not straight. It's laying
It's
down.
it's
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 cut like this.
horizontal. It's horizontal. So it's like
Okay,
it's
okay. That,
horizontal.
that,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
more mathematical sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
much more sense. I'm wondering how the person on the bottom actually gets his hands through the tree. It's not
Nah,
possible.
nah, it's horizontal. It's
I'm about to
horizontal.
say,
One is at the
is
top,
it
one's at the
that far
bottom.
back? Right? How far back is it? Okay,
Yeah.
good stuff. Good stuff, guys. Listen, it's a beautiful thing that when you bring culture in, right? When you bring culture in, because we were talking about culture on the last call. As you should know, we have launched the first week of Marketing Like a Leader, and we talked very, very heavily about culture, and we talked very, very heavily about brand, right? Because as Junior's telling the story, you have a thought in your mind. I know it, but you just have a thought in your mind, and that thought in your mind is a brand. That thought in your mind is a brand. I was actually on a call yesterday with one of the one of the titans, I would say, of the consulting industry, Mr. Alan Weiss. Now, if you don't know who Alan Weiss is, Google him, right? Because we're talking about a super phenomenal brand, $1 million coach, $1 million consulting, $1 million speaking, and $1 million everything. He wrote the consulting Bible. He's been a guru in the consulting space for probably 40 years. Easy, right? And people ask me all the time, Sean, how do you stay new? How do you stay fresh? How do you stay cutting edge, but still have a business model that's lean and runs differently than the Cracker Jack box? People that are trying, there's new stuff going on. Well, I don't want to. I'm going to come back on this topic. I know it's about time for that break, so we're going to go ahead and pay some bills. And when we come back, we're going to talk for a moment about the origin of consulting, the culture and brand intersection, and the phenomenal conversation that I had yesterday. Mr. B, go ahead. Let's pay the bills. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. If you are now tuning in, put some flames in the chat. Also, let us know where you're listening in from. So, Shan, before we went to the break, you were talking about Mr. Alan Weiss, and you were about to sort of explain, I guess, an interaction, was it? That you had.
Intersection between brand and culture. And then people ask me all the time, Sean, how do you bring the innovative ideas and still have the business model that's lean, right? And what is the core business practice? Because it's a little bit different. It's not easy to most entrepreneurs are out of here within a year. And then as the years go on, the success rate goes down, right? Literally, as the years go on, the success rate goes down and the ability to stick around or have what we call stickability goes down. It doesn't match. It doesn't correlate. Everyone who comes into business doesn't stay in business, right? So number one, the godfathers, right? The titans of the industry. You want to know who the titans and the pioneers of your industry are. There's a gentleman right now being lambasted in hip hop culture, because he actually referred to the pioneers of the game as being old and dusty. This is music we're talking
Wow.
about. Yeah, yeah. He
Wow.
called like the pioneers, like the KRS Ones, the Rock Kims, the Sugar Hill Gang. I was watching the Apollo last night, and Far Side came on. It was one of those episodes where the Far Side was performing. And these are old groups, but if they did not exist, then you wouldn't have Little Yachty or the Baby and Little Baby and the Nickies and the Cardis and the people that everybody loves now. You wouldn't have them if these pioneers did not exist. I want you to think of a house and think of the foundation, right? So you want to revisit your history, because if you don't know where you've been, you can't tell where you are, and you don't know where you're going, right? So that's just it's a generational baton pass, the passing of the baton. Right. So I stay in these conversations. I stay in conversations with pioneers. That's why everything that I do is evidence based. And it's not just some hustle I thought of or woke up with. It's evidence based because I trace its lineage, and I continue to have deep, thought provoking, thought leadership conversations with the masters of the game, the people that's been doing it for 20, 40, 60 years. Literally. That's why I spoke with Jay Abraham and went to Jay Abraham's breakthrough on the beach, because it's very important that we get out of our homes and get out of our comfort zones and get to know these people, so that we already know what they've done. We've read all the books, but now that they know us and there's an interaction and a conversation, they can vouch for us, right? And watch this. The second thing is super important. I also had a conversation with a 21-year-old yesterday. Very important. And that just dawned on me during the break, that I had a conversation with a generational godfather of the game, and then a grandchild, basically, of the game. I literally spoke to Alan Weiss, and then a guy who's 21, very ambitious, wants to do phenomenal things, as they always are, grit and vinegar, right? So this is an old term, but they call it piss and vinegar, then grit and vinegar. The older they are, they call it piss and vinegar, but the younger they are, they call it grit and vinegar. So both ways, right? Phenomenal conversation and phenomenal revelation, because the young child, the young man, he was not a child, but the young man said that he's been watching people like me, Inky. He said, "Yeah, I grew up watching you guys," and I was like, "You grew up watching me, like." But this is what he said. He said, "I grew up watching you guys, Grant, Dan, Sean Rice, E.T., Bob Proctor." I was like, wow, look at the name. Like, look at the name, look at the brand being mentioned in these associations. And that's all because of the brand, which brings me to the next segue. So the segue is what you were talking about when you said culture, and you were talking about the culture. Everybody got an idea of culture. And this is because the brand, or a brand, is what a person thinks about you when you're not in the room. When you're not in the room, when you're not, in person, when a person thinks of you, it's the thought that comes to their mind that defines your brand. And that's basically an expression of your culture, the way you do things, your language, your appearance, your rituals, your actions, right? So we in every company, there's different holidays. There's different holidays. So we incorporated on June 30th of a year. I won't mention the year, right? But we incorporated on that day, June 30th. So every year on that day, it's a meaningful moment. It's a meaningful moment, and that's culture. That's culture. And leadership is one of the huge principles within our culture. Originality, integrity, morals, values, and principles, deeply entrenched and enmeshed within our culture. That is our brand. So depending on who the observer is, they either love it or it's hard for them. And I understand it because as I was speaking to Alan, he was like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people don't like me. That's just who I am. Because he doesn't beat around the bush to say he gives it straight, right? So again, your brand exists as a culture or a way of life in other people's minds, and it's what's thought of you when you're not in the room. Very important for you to know that. And it's very important for you to know that you are being watched. You are being watched. Your every move as a brand is because the young man said something about the development of our brand. He said, I've watched the development of your brand. And to go from, I guess, indie, right? Independent, to use go back to the music piece, like
Right.
a Jay-Z started in the trunk of his car in Gates or in Marcy Projects, not having a fan base, not being able to get a record deal, nobody knowing who his name was, actually saying that he was garbage, said this guy is nothing,
Imagine that.
to now being one of the few four billionaires that are black in music or from music, and the other three came from him. So I want you to think, you who are watching this in your business, whether you're taking hits, giving, delivering punishment and domination in the business, I want you to think not of where you are now, because it's not about where you are now. And Jay Abraham always talks about the CEO that sees around corners. I want you to become one of those phenomenal people who are able to base your actions today on your 20-year mark. On your 20-year mark, if you knew that you could not fail right now, you don't understand how important it is that you're laying the bricks for your legacy should you be successful. Should you be successful? So when you think, oh, I'm done calling people today, you might want to just be beginning. When you get tired and you say, I'm not going to go live today, I'm not going to do the calls today, I'm going to take today off. Today might be the day you want to put it in hyperdrive, because you are being watched and you will be remembered. The only question is how.
That's quite a long point there, and that's a super powerful point. We spoke about so many things there. We spoke about culture. We spoke about branding. We spoke about respect. I think respect is very, very important. The other day I was having a conversation with someone. I said everybody came from somebody. So if you look at all of the speakers, the most famous speakers, right? They all came from somebody. So this one would reference that person, and that person would reference this person. So, sometimes I ask people, where are you from? Who are you coming from? Who can vouch for you? And I think a little bit of humility, a lot of respect, and always remembering to just be a student. Every phenomenal master is also a phenomenal student. And I think those things speak volumes. Like you could always tell, right, Shan? Because I mean, even with you, I notice you always give Mr. E.T. Dr. Eric Thomas a lot of credit all the time.
Of
So
course.
it's all about respect. It's all about, being humble, being respectful, and remembering the people that helped you when you were not the person that you are today,
let
right?
me let me provide an analogy for this, right? Because
Yes.
you're right, and it goes deep. It's so deep, guys. And this is the problem. And we work with a lot of women. So I'm going to use an analogy that females can be very familiar with. And men, just pay attention. There's an incubation period. There's a gestation period when impregnation takes place. So look at impregnation as an idea. You have a phenomenal idea to start a business. That would be the beginning. That would be when it pops. Okay, boom, this is a thought. It's a real thing. And you begin to try to develop it. But we already know if you try to develop it on your own, it's not sustainable. Outside of an incubation period, outside of an incubation container, it's not possible. It will never happen. Now, there's a lot of things taking place in laboratories where they're trying to graft and trying to create life outside of, but that's not real. It doesn't last. It's not sustainable. So, the way it works, if you want to be someone who's in the business for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, if this is what you want to do, if you want to be successful at creating life, then you have to be inside of a tanker, inside of an incubation chamber, right? So impregnation takes place, and you're nurtured. You're nurtured inside of a community. You're nurtured, and the umbilical cord forms as you begin to take shape, as you begin to move, and feel around, get your bearings. As you begin to notice things and literally form, take form, right? Your brand takes form, your ideas take forms. You might write a book, you might start to speak, you might say, okay, I want to become a coach, I want to become a consultant, I want to become a speaker. Many different ways that you form. Look at those as limbs. Look at those as limbs. You want to start a business, that's another limb, and you want to be known as something, right? Watch this. If you cut the umbilical cord too soon, then you're premature. Which means if you just jump out there on your own too soon, you're called a preemie. And you need more time to develop. It's the same thing as people in record labels thinking that they are ready to be platinum A1 uh phenomenal superstars on
Right.
someone's level when they're not. They still have a lot to learn. Their stage show is shot. They don't have it down pat. They got a one-hit wonder. Now you know these guys because you heard one song and then you never heard from them again. Just think about the long list of one-hit wonders. It's the same things in business. I, in my time in business, have seen people come and then go, come and then go in the same incubation period, but they jump out like, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. And now they're washing cars or selling cars, and they're not doing the same thing that they said they were gonna do because they were too soon and too fast to jump out there. Do not, do not do not jump out of the tank premature before you grow your legs. And make sure you can crawl, then walk, then stand, right? Crawl, stand, walk, then run, then fly. This is a year by year process called development. And if you don't do it the right way, you're going to jump, but you're going to land flat on your face. So, to Junior's point, to your point, Junior, I always think about the child that goes home. Like my parents are gone, but if they weren't, I would go sit down and, so you're lucky if you have parents go and sit down at the feet of to hear the wisdom of. It's the same thing in your field. If you're not sitting at the feet of and listening to the wisdom of, then you're trying to start something new and you don't have the well-rounded background and experience that will inform your process. There's a reason why, and I learned it by the hard way. But there's a reason why mommy say come in at dark and don't hang out with this one and this one and this one. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in business. I might go to someone and say, hey, we're at this point now. How do we, how can I save time, collapse time on the move, and what needs to be in place and what needs to be removed to go from 9 to from 8 to 9 figures, or from mid 7 to 8. What does that look like? You can't grow your business in a silo. The same way you can't grow your arm, a fetus can't grow its arms and legs outside of the womb.
That's a phenomenal point. Wow. Guys, listen, we're going to be taking a break in the next few seconds. When we return, we'll be talking more about this subject. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. See you soon. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand. If you've enjoyed the show so far, put some flames in the comments. Remember, wherever you're viewing this, like, share. If you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe. So if
Oh
you're on
yeah, we're
YouTube,
gonna change. We're gonna switch up the format too a little bit, Junior. So you
okay.
notice the changes coming, right? Yes, notice the changes coming. We're gonna change the format a little bit. Same phenomenal time, same phenomenal place, same bat channel, but a little bit different on the design and the format. You know, one thing that I wanted to say to the same point that we were making, Junior, to relate back to my upbringing, right, in Harlem. You didn't go somewhere without someone who could vouch for you in certain neighborhoods. Some of you still won't go. Some places, someone could vouch for you in certain neighborhoods. But realistically, like, so for you to leave a 10-block radius, someone has to escort you and take you in there and show you the lay of the land and who not to, what, and where you can get the greatest fish sandwiches, right? Where's the fish at? That's the first thing I want to know when I go to a town. Like, where's the fish at? And somebody from there has to tell me. I don't trust, Google like that, because they'll give you anything. So I need to speak to someone who's from there, who shares similar likes, interests, and preferences, and can point me in the right direction.
Right.
The fish sandwich. It's the same thing in business. You want to be escorted in. So we escort people through the channels of not having the right messaging, not having the right brand, not having the right positioning, not setting up their business correctly, not understanding the nuances between lean and team. Right? These are just certain things that you need to know that will save you tons of money getting it wrong, and years of time trying to get it right.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing all around the world. Because even here, it's the same thing. So it's just
you,
always the same culture, right? Always the same
you
culture.
get you get lost.
Yeah, you will.
You get lost, and that's what happens
You're
in business
totally
when they
lost.
when they think I got it, I could do it, right? When they say to themselves, I got it, I could do it, and I'm good. Everybody's a little bit too confident, and what happens is they go into the wrong space and then they get hurt, or they get lost, or it takes too long, or it takes too much money, and they're not present. They're not ready for it. So that's what the incubation does. The incubation gets you ready. The gestation period gets you ready, and being in the right community. Being in the right community gets you ready for business.
Definitely.
Big point.
I mean, it's so true. And when you talk about community, one of the things that I've noticed is sort of this transference of certain things. So knowledge is one, confidence is another one, and it's almost by osmosis. If that makes sense. It's almost by osmosis, and I could say just for myself, for me speaking, being part of our community. Shan, so you sent me a picture yesterday, right?
Yes, I did.
Thank God we don't have the picture to show. But so guys, Shan sent me a picture of myself yesterday.
Yeah,
And it's like the difference is you could literally see the difference. As I think it's the same sort of incubator, right? Just being in the community and just by osmosis, you learn different things. You learn leadership, of course, you learn business, but you learn other things like confidence, leadership, the things that really, really, really move the needle, not just in business, but in life. Super, super important things. So it's
and
super important to get in a community
go
where
ahead.
those things are transferred. You are the five people that you hang around, right? So if you hang around winners, if you hang around people that talk about business, eventually you start talking about business. If you hang around people with money, eventually you start to make money. So it's the same thing, it's the same rule.
That's right. So omnipotent asks, what do I mean by that? And the reflection of what I mean by that is what Junior just talked about. And this is what everybody's experience is. Think about coming into the military. Think about going into the military and how things change. How things change when you get there. What changes about you? You might have loose hair and a beard. Military doesn't allow that. That's one thing that changes. You might be a little bit chubby, lethargic, sleepy. Military doesn't allow that. You might not make your bed in the morning. Military doesn't allow that. You might dress a little bit loose and comfortable and with your shirt outside of your pants, like not tucked in. Military doesn't allow that. You might walk around with your pants hanging. Military doesn't allow that. And when you see the military, you see them sharp, you see them groomed, you see them cut from a certain cloth, you see them strong, you see them standing upright, sober, ready to go. That's the culture. That's the culture. So you want to find yourself in a culture of phenomenality or excellence if you want to be phenomenal and if you want to be excellent. Very simple. Very simple. Greatness is not created in a silo. Steel sharpens steel, iron sharpen iron. That's how it goes.
Definitely. So Shan, on another note, so we have officially launched Marketing Like a Leader. It's officially been, I think, 1 week, right? It's officially been one
One
week since
week,
we launched. Is
yes.
it only 1 week?
That's it.
It feels like it's been quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let's talk about that a little bit. So, what has the response been based on your observation? Have we had any breakthroughs? Have
Of
people gained any
course.
clarity?
Of course. There's always going to be phenomenal, phenomenal breakthroughs. So one thing that I pride myself on is strategy over tactics. Strategy over tactics. Everybody wants the next what? I pride myself on going a bit deeper than the token, right? The shiny token or the shiny object syndrome when it comes to training and teaching. So I don't really go into the tactic because when you have the right strategy, any tactic will work. If you have the wrong strategy, no tactic will work. And that's one of those pin moments, guys. You might want to write that down. You you might want to write that down. If you don't have the right identity and long-term strategy, then even the right tactic occurs wrong, it's not sustainable. It won't last. But when you have the right long-term strategy, when you have the right idea, when you understand really what marketing is, it'll be easy. But if you don't understand what marketing really is, nothing can save you and everything is going to be hard. So instead of so much content, what I'm providing is much more context in which any content makes sense, right? Because it's not a lot of it's not a lot of tactics done in a specific way. It's few. It's actually fewer things done in a right way that is measurable, predictable, reliable, viable, credible, and repeatable. If you don't have that, like this call, like the leadership leverage community, if you don't have a sustained practice, a sustained way to bring people into your business or bring your business to the mind of the marketplace, then nothing's going to work for you. When you see a lot of people doing a whole bunch of stuff in no form, okay, so let me take you back to another version of me. In martial arts, it's all about forms. It's all about your form. It's not about throwing a punch, for God's sakes. And just like lifting weights, another version of me. It's not like going to the gym and trying to throw weights around. And it's not like trying to get into the ring and just trying to punch somebody in the face. It's all about form, technique, breath control. That's what it's about. Because if not, you'll be out of breath and out of energy in one round. You won't last past 3 sets in the gym, and you'll throw your shoulder out on both accounts. That's what people are doing in business. They're just jumping in like, let me grab this, and I got this, and don't give me no spot, and I'm
Right.
good. They try to get up under 225 pounds, and they've never benched 135. That we know, we
Yes.
know they're about to break their neck, but they think they looking good. You should see some of the stuff out there, man. You know, go to Planet Fitness if you want to see what I'm talking about.
Shout out. I'm pretty well acquainted with that side of working out, right? So I mean, I used to work out quite a lot, but more calisthenics, more on the calisthenics side. But you said something that I was super interested in, and I actually wanted to ask you a question. And this is based on a question that somebody asked me last night. So somebody asked me a question about what's the best way to start marketing? So, I mean, there are many ways you could start marketing. But when you talk about tactics and then you talk about strategy, my question to you, right, would be what is the best way to go about it? Should somebody have a short-term strategy, a mid-term strategy, and a long-term strategy for marketing? Because a lot of what I hear is people talking about stuff that seems like a long-term strategy. So for example, somebody wants to launch a course. They say, well, let me start putting out some posts, or let me start, doing whatever, whether it's Facebook ads or, whatever they want to do. But from my experience, I know those things might come to fruition in the next, I don't know, 2 months. Depends on their skill level, the next 2 months, 3 months. So in business, in my mind, that's a long-term strategy. I know it's not long, but we know business is so volatile that 3 months, everything could change in 3 months. Okay, especially in today's time. So should the average person have a long-term strategy, something that they're doing to prepare for the next 3 months or the next quarter? Should they have a midterm strategy, and should they have a more short-term strategy, something that they could do like just like that? For example, like getting on the phone and actually making some calls and telling people about what they do.
I get it. I get it. And the answer to that is definitely. Definitely. So look at it as a year-long plan. And in a year-long plan, you want to have your year-long plan, you want to have your annual plan, you want to have your quarterly plan, you want to have your weekly plan and your daily plan. Because that's how you get to a year. Whatever your goals are for the year, you have to break it down and give it measurable. That's the thing about marketing too. Marketing done right is measurable. If it's not measurable, it's not trackable. If it's not trackable, then you can't reproduce it. You don't know what you did. You just got lucky, but you don't know how. You just making money. And there's some people that are just out here making money, but they're not going to be here next year because they just making money and they don't have a they can't trace it or track it back because they're doing so much stuff. They don't know where people are coming from. They don't know what's working and what's not. Right. So you want to create a long-term, short-term, and then immediate goals and steps so that you can track it and you can measure it. I sent out an email last night about goals and the personal goal system that I use to track, measure, and make success reproducible, right? And not to go into that, but realistically, if you do not trace, track, and measure your success, then you won't be able to reproduce it. So it's not sustainable and it's not scalable. Write that word down, guys. It's not sustainable and it's not scalable if you can't trace it, track it, and measure it. If you can trace it, track it, and measure it, then you know exactly what it is, you know where it came from, and you know that it worked. And watch this. If it worked to 17%, then you can optimize it from 17% of success to 20% of success, and then 25% of success, and continue to tweak and pop and magnify and multiply that which works and move and subtract that which doesn't work. So you can take a campaign that might be 17% successful and make it 23% successful, and 5% of success can be multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Very true. Very true. 5%. Somebody put it in the chat. What's 5% of $1 billion?
Woo!
Somebody put that in the chat. What is 5% of $1 billion? Answer is a lot of money. That's it.
Come on.
Answer is a lot of money.
Let's
So,
go.
you know what's so interesting? I read this book recently. And it was talking about those small gaps. So those very, very tiny, tiny micro gaps. I'm talking about 1%. So you want somebody, you want another professional in your space.
Remind me
Let's-
to speak on that. I'm gonna write it down. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's say you and another professional, y'all are equally yoked, right? You have the same skill, you have the same education. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you have one guy who's satisfied, or one girl or one woman who's satisfied, and the other person is not that satisfied, and they keep refining themselves, but they keep tweaking everything like 0.1% or 0.5% or whatever that may be. Okay? Those small gaps make a world of difference. If we're measuring our success based on four things, let's say each of these four things are the number one. Okay?
Guys, you might
If
want to
I
write all of this down because we're gonna wrap up with something that's a super game changer for your life and your business. Go ahead, Junior.
Yeah, so let's say your success is measured by four things. Each of these four things, let's ascribe a number one to each of these four things. If you only double your productivity in the first thing, right? Let's say A. If you only double your productivity in A, Sean, what's the answer? So let's say from one. So one times two, right? You double your productivity is two.
That's right.
Now one times four. So one times one times one times one is one. Right?
That's right.
But two times one times one times one is two. So if you double your productivity in only one area, you double your productivity across the board. So let me say that again. If you double your productivity in one area, you double your productivity across the board, because two times one times one times one is two. So it's one of those things where I think there's a saying, when the tide comes in, all ships. So 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 when the tide co Right.
Oh,
So it's one of those.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
one
So
of those situations.
it's the difference between incremental and exponential growth. It's the precipitator to hockey stick growth. It's the indicator of potential hockey stick growth, which is an uptick that is unparalleled, right? And it's also the difference between incremental and exponential growth. So think about your business doubling every year. Think about your business doubling every year. So the first year you make 25K. The second year you make 50. And then you make 100. And then think about compressing that. So when you magnify it, you're able to compress it. So think about the first quarter making 25 and then the second quarter making 50, third quarter making 100, and then the last quarter making 200, right? Think about what that looks like in your business and think about how many people you're helping, serving, solving problems for. Think about the energy emanating from your company and from your presence in the marketplace. That's what we mean when we say put the world on notice. And it's actually what we teach in Branded Like a Leader, how to do just that. And I wanted to relate what you were saying about the micro gaps to micro tears in a muscle. Guys, this is not philosophy. That's the thing. Like, this is not philosophy. People hear us talk all the time and say, "Oh, they're postulating and using words to describe situations that exist in the maybe realm." This is not in the maybe realm. This is based in science, nutrition, and mathematics. Right? This is scientifically based. That's why I say everything we do is evidence based here. When you work out, when you do a set, you have micro tears on the muscle. And letting the muscle go from sore to rehabilitated, right? From letting it go from sore to healed is what makes it bigger. That's where bodybuilding comes from. So when you look at someone who's well developed, strong, and looks that way, it's because of a series of micro tears and rehabilitation process over months, years, and days. So when you look at a successful business, it's that a successful business that
Right.
looks developed and well and suited and fitted for the economy and the times conditioned for whatever takes place in the economy, rips in society, or whatever situation may occur, durable, reliable, resilient. These business models come from a series of micro gaps being addressed and then given the time to calibrate and then measure again and improve over time. What happens is people, and this is why it's so important. This is the fundamentals. This is why it's so important when you say I want to go to the gym, you don't go by yourself because you don't know what you're doing. You might be able to pick up some weight, but you're going to do more harm than good. So it's the same thing in business when people say, well, I've got the education and I'm able to do this. It's like, slow down. Low down. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to do more harm than good. You need a coach. You need a trainer. You need someone who has the evidence-based education, experience, and expertise, knows it well, has done it well, and has the results to prove it. That's how you build a phenomenal business. That's also how you build a phenomenal body. That's also how you build a phenomenal relationship. Let me give you an example. I'm not going to someone who's 3 times divorced to give me marriage advice. It's not going to happen. The only thing they can tell me is what not to do. but they can't tell me how to navigate it the right way because they haven't been successful at it yet. So I don't have it. I don't take advice from those people. I take advice from people who have 50 years in this game, 30 years in this game, and have massive success over long periods of time. That's how, the same way when I go to, I'm literally certified as a personal fitness trainer and nutritional specialist. I made sure that I got the training to go into the gym and do the right thing by myself. If you don't invest in yourself and invest in your education and invest in learning from a body of knowledge that has produced the results, then you don't even want the success. You just want to go out there and hurt yourself, make a mess.
Yeah, that's something else. I think, in fact, I know all growth occurs based on your environment. So surrounding yourself with the right people, whether it be your health, whether it be your wealth, whether it be your business, it's all the same thing. You have to find people that have the results that you want so they can help you recreate the results that you want. That's it. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. Success leaves clues, right? I think that's a more elegant way to say it, right, Shan?
That's it.
Success
That's
leaves
it.
clues.
It really does. And we're going to show that tonight on the Leadership Leverage
Yes,
executive coaching and community call. We're gonna show that on what we call the leadership live deep dive at 5, right? So the leadership leverage is going to come together and we actually allow other people to come in, and during the leadership live deep dive at 5 tonight, we're just going to coach. So you're just going to see some coaching. If you have a gap in your business, if you have a problem, if you have immediate micro gap or a massive gap, bring it to the table, and we're going to handle it in session at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard.
yeah, and Mr. B, if you could put that link up on the screen if you can, if that's possible. Okay, there we go. All right, guys, so the link is below. This is today at 5 p.m. EST. So, Shan, this is gonna be a more mastermind sort of hot seat sort of Q&A, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Trust me, you don't want to miss.
If you want to see marketing as well as coaching as well as leadership in action, don't miss that call.
Definitely. So, as we prepare to wrap up, I do want to ask everyone, if you've enjoyed today's show, put some flames in the chat. If you have any questions, we have a couple minutes. If anybody has a question that they want to get answered, you could definitely put that in the comments. Put it in the comments if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on LinkedIn. But while we wait for that, the link is down below. This is 100% free of charge, right? So, I mean, you come in, the knowledge is there. The price is free, but the value is priceless. So you definitely want to tap in. All
And
right.
get ready
So
for the next iteration, because we are going to undergo transformation, right? This call is going to undergo transformation so that you can see something different. One thing I also want to give to you is that business is two things, and that's it. It's not a 10 million different things. It's marketing and innovation. Two things: marketing, how people come to find out about your brand, right? And then innovation, how that brand is optimized and the products and services are optimized, and the innovative practices and mindsets that create the different dimensions of your business, the different product offerings. Two things: marketing and innovation. So you'll see the innovation consistently through the brand's development. I always say, don't just watch what I do, but analyze how I do it over time and what moves we make, and then ask the question, why?
that's right. So guys, Thank you so much, Sean. We are about to shut down. We have another call in like 2 minutes. So, guys, in fact, let me ask you: is there anything else you want to say before we sort of shut this down for today?
No, respect your elders. Respect your elders in business, right? Respect your elders in business because a lot of people don't know, but I have been happy to introduce and be a bridge for different age groups and development groups, right? So when I mention certain names to people, they're like, "Who is that? I've never heard of them," and I'll just say, "Go back and do your research. Go back and do your research. Go back and do your research." You want to be a scholar in business. You want to know where you came from. You want to be. Maybe it's because I'm doing the dissertation right now. Maybe it's because I'm involved in the dissertation right now and I'm going back over all of the literature that was ever created on leadership development and executive coaching, right? For a specific population. But if you don't know where you came from, if you don't know what's been written, if you don't know the context in which you exist, then the question has to be asked, do you really exist at all? And you don't. It's not founded. It's not based. It's not empiric. It has no empirical basing. So it's basically floating. It's in a silo. It's not grounded. It's not founded. It's not solid. So to make yourself solid and make yourself complete, get a full rounded education. Get a full rounded education. Research your history to know where you came from so that you can know where you're at and you can more properly delineate where you're trying to go.
Definitely. So thank you very much. Listen, guys, this has been Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders. Want to go from bland to industry leading brand. We'll see you tonight on the Leadership Live Deep Dive at 5. Have a phenomenal day.
Let's
Let's
grow.
grow.